Another question someone asked was, why is elevated fasting glucose an issue if post-meal is well controlled?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, this is a good time to introduce Dr. Jessica Kopelman,
Mm-hmm.
who is primary care physician with obstetrical background. She will be joining us doing some Facebook
Mm-hmm.
Live. I really liked her answer to this one.
Yep.
It's very simple. I mean, when you fasted, you expect your sugar to be lower
Right.
than after you've eaten.
Right.
What we are really looking for is the mother's glucose under reasonable control?
Right.
So, you know, it's not just one or the other. It's fasting. It's an hour. I mean, I use an hour. Some people use 2 hours after meal
Yeah.
to see if the numbers are either
Yeah.
140 or less, or 2 hours, 120 or less.
Yep.
We're trying to see throughout the entire day, except the time you're asleep, what is the sugar control like?
Right.
And the question becomes, why is it important?
Mm-hmm.
If sugar is high, if mother's sugar is high, then baby's sugar is high, baby's insulin is high.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that it causes more consumption of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
Yep.
So uncontrolled diabetes, especially on medication, are at increased risk of stillbirth.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how good sugar control is, these patients may be seen twice as of 32 weeks, sometimes 34. And I was talking to our registered dietitian, Leslie, our gestational diabetes expert.
Mm-hmm.
I liked her too. We have all these new people.
She's awesome.
You know?
Yeah, we hope she comes on board.
I think she will. And the neat thing is, we went to same high school, same undergrad in Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we were talking about Ohio a lot because we went to same high school.
Yeah.
Wow, this is exciting. But she brought up a good point in that so many people are not ready to get pregnant.
Yep.
And then they get pregnant. And they want to know, how do we fix this?
Right.
The point is, you get pregnant when things are in order.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, gestational diabetes is real.
Yep.
I think especially with the pandemic, numbers have gone up.
Yep.
And I think for our members, Leslie is a great resource.
She's amazing.
Allegra is another resource.
Yep.
And the one thing I would tell all our patients, especially if they're checking their finger stick, consistency. You want to eat at the same time. If you're taking medication or by mouth or insulin, about the same time.
Yep.
That is so important.
Yeah. This is my third pregnancy with gestational diabetes. My first was completely diet controlled. My second, I did have to go on insulin, and this is the third so far. Knock on wood.
Thank you, Leslie.
Diet controlled. Thank you, Leslie.
Go Buckeyes.
I will say that the fasting is the hardest to control. You know, it's pretty easy to get your post-meal number where it needs to be. I mean, you eat less carbs, but then that always affects your fasting because if you don't eat enough carbs, then you're spiking after meals. So really learning how to eat balanced meals and what the right carbs to eat are is really overwhelming when you first get diagnosed. But when you team up with someone like Leslie that knows how to make that manageable and approachable for you, it makes a huge, huge difference. My last pregnancy, my fasting was what I had trouble with. And the fasting's hard because there's not a whole lot you can do to control that one. There are things, but sometimes it just becomes the hormones, you can't control it. But a lot of things that I thought would help weren't helping. It was actually making it worse.
Yeah.
So I was barely eating any carbs. I was really, really low carb at my meals. My bedtime snack, I was eating these protein shakes that were like 3 carbs in them and all protein, but had all these like artificial sweeteners. And I started working with Leslie and I learned how to eat. I have a lot more flexibility, a lot more freedom, and more confidence, and I just feel better. Because when your blood sugar is, and you're trying, and your blood sugar is out of control, it's depressing. It makes you feel like crap.
You know, in addition to that, you are more likely to develop diabetes
Type
later
2.
on.
I think it's like a 50 to 70% increase, correct?
So, yes. So this is the time to really understand you
Yep.
do something for now and something for later.
Yeah.
And this is where I would tell people, pregnancy is great, the end result.
The end result's great.
But it's a huge health risk.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's very hard.
It's very, very
so
hard.
for those of you who are thinking of getting pregnant,
Yep.
I would say think really hard and also get into the best shape
Yep.
before you take on this
Yeah.
task.
And understand your health risks too, because I mean, for me, especially with my first pregnancy, I was at a very, very healthy weight. I didn't gain a ton of weight during my pregnancy, but I have a genetic predisposition to it. And now I didn't know that with my first pregnancy, but now with my third pregnancy, I knew going into this that I was going to get gestational diabetes again. I knew that I had had it in the past. I knew I had these risk factors because both of my maternal grandparents are type 2 diabetics. You know, I have a family history of gestational diabetes. So the minute I got pregnant, my diet immediately was changed and was reflective of one that was going to be healthier for gestational diabetes. And because of that, I haven't had to go on insulin this time. I've gained not a whole lot of weight, and it's made it much, much easier to control and manage. So mentally going into it prepared and knowing that that was going to be a thing and having that plan, I think has made this pregnancy much, much easier than the previous ones.
So wrapping up gestational diabetes for the mother, we talk about, obesity plus gestational diabetes, which often go hands in hand, increase the risk of complication,
Yep.
right? Pregnancy-induced hypertension.
Mhm.
And then there's induction, which
Yep.
we talk about depending on how good the control is.
Right.
And for the baby, we talk about how big the baby can be, especially the shoulder,
Yep.
and increased stillbirth. So this is a serious condition
Yep.
that people must really consider.
Right. And also hypoglycemia for the baby after
Yeah.
they're born.
Yeah.
Making sure their blood sugar is good.